I'm not driven by money. I'm driven by comfort. Let's reverse engineer it. What do we need? I'd finish work from that. I'd sit in bed and I'd be like, I'm pretty uncomfortable.
That's my favorite thing, being a business owner. I need like the stress of owning a business in my life to be happy.
I don't know about you, Bobby, but I get so frustrated with the Facebook platform.
Yeah, it is. It is. All right, we're here. It's the Money Shop. This is Brien Gearin. Brien, we go back a very long way. It feels like, it actually hasn't been that many years, I guess. Like when did you join Facebook Side Hustle?
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me, dude. It was the very beginning of January 2018. I was part of your OG group in the Facebook Side Hustle course, and that's where I first met you and Mike.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give a quick synopsis of your story, because like from my perspective, it was a very wild thing. So you joined for 12 months. You really struggled to get a client. My kid's like yelling in the background. Brien has 4 kids, so whatever it is what it is. Yeah. So joined for 12 months. You came to like every coaching call, and you just couldn't get a client for whatever reason. And then you got your first one, and then I feel like after that, you fast forward to now, you've got a successful digital marketing agency that's crushing it. You've got a podcast. Can you tell people what the podcast is and how many listeners you just told me?
Yeah, Millionaire University. We just crossed 500,000 actual listeners, and then we're pushing just over 800,000 downloads. So I know there's a little bit of difference in the podcast world between downloads and listens.
It's a lot, though.
But that's where we stand. So yeah, it's a lot. It's fun.
It's a lot. And so can you tell me a little bit about your marketing agency?
Yeah. So Ricochet Digital, and kind of going back to with the Facebook Side Hustle. First of all, shout out to you and Bobby, or you and Mike, for giving me the keys to all of this. Like I'm not sitting here saying I'm like king of the world right now. But I am light years, millions of years ahead of where I would have been if I had not found you guys. You and Mike changed my life. So let's get that out of the way. It took me 11 months to get my first client. Sales was the hardest thing for me. Like actually going out there selling, getting past imposter syndrome, all the BS that comes with starting something, right? Like, and then just is honestly the massive mindset shift that it took, and that you and Mike taught me. And I think I always tell my wife, hopefully not too distant in the future, but I'm going to get a ragtop Mustang, and I'm going to get a vanity plate that says L8BLMR, late bloomer. Cause I've throughout my childhood and like playing baseball, all my coaches were like, you're just like a late bloomer. And I'm like, yeah, which sucks when I'm trying to get a scholarship at age 18. And like, well, yeah, 24 years old, you're gonna be great. And I'm like, I go play, rec ball at 26, and I'm like throwing way harder than I did at 18. Anyway, it's an analogy for how the rest of my life has gone. So, but yeah, Ricochet Digital was born out of joining your Facebook Side Hustle course, learning the technical skill of writing Facebook ads and actually doing the thing in Facebook, and then going out and selling those services to small businesses local to me. And I remember when I joined, it's the Facebook Side Hustle. I know we got a different name now, but
no, it's still the same. I am considering.
I should know that.
Yeah. I didn't mention that. Brien coaches for us now. Now I am considering changing the name of that program, just because I think when we first did it, like back in 2018, like that was such a new concept. Like there were side hustles, but like side hustles were kind of an emerging trend. And there weren't a lot of specific side hustle, like freelancing side hustle courses. Now there's a bunch of them. And we've actually had people, and this isn't actually a bad thing, I think it's a good thing. We've had people like straight up copy our model with different programs and different skills and stuff. So it's definitely a more crowded market than it used to be. But like the results that we get from our top students are not side hustle results by any stretch. I mean, like we just had somebody, I think last week, that just joined the 5K club, like, which is 5,000 a month in recurring revenue. Like if you learn this skill, it's a full-time job. Like, and it can be a huge agency if you want it to be, it can be small. Like, and so I don't know what we're going to change the name to. But I think that it's just, I don't think that it's positioned the right way anymore, because it's really not a side hustle program. It just made the most sense for the marketing back then.
Right. Well, and nowadays there's such a push towards entrepreneurship, which is so exciting for me as an entrepreneur and as somebody who is a partner at Millionaire University, where we're wanting to be the alternative education source for the next generations of entrepreneurs. There's such a shift into that mode now that people are like, screw the side hustle. I don't want to be at my 9 to 5 and then do 5 to 9 working my side hustle. I want to do, 10 to 4 doing, they want to do the old Biden schedule to do their actual job. And you can do that with a job, with a business like what we do. Now it depends on, obviously there's a different multitude of factors, but when I joined, it was the idea of what could I do with an extra $1,000 or $2,000 a month. At the time, just found out we were pregnant, just bought our new house. I was still working for my father-in-law as a full-time position and knew I wanted to do my own thing. I remember having a chat. It was either with you or Mike, or maybe both of you guys. And you're just like, hey, based on what you tell us, how you're coming in here, you're never quitting. There's no plan B. You're turning this into something. We just need you to know you can actually do it. Like, look at us and look at Mike, like with Mike's agency, like it was stick with us and we'll teach you how to do this. We're calling it a side hustle because a lot of people here just want it as a side hustle, but there's a pathway for you. And that was the first time in my life where I had someone actually tell me entrepreneurship is for you if you want this, and clearly you do. And so Ricochet was born out of that. I started that on the side, working for my father-in-law. I did that for another 2.5 years while I was building it up, which, go full Monty and hop in, that's great. But at the same time, if you can build something on the side while still making sure you get a paycheck, and everybody's life scenarios are different. I had a family and a house, and I couldn't just quit my job, which that would have been, I probably would have scared myself out of it and gone right back into a real job, which would have been devastating. So grew it on the side. Took me a while to get to the 5K club. Took me a little bit longer to get to the 10K club. But by about, about 2 years ago. And so we started to have kids. We have 4 kids, working at home, building this business. And I was the Lone Ranger for a while. Which is one way to do it. You can, it's not impossible, but there's so much more power in relationships and with whether you invest in coaching or mentorship or a partner, which I've done in the last year. I did a lot of that and am working with a partner now in the business, which is having a massive effect with the company. But I was sitting in the 10 to 15K ballpark for business revenue for a long time. And honestly, Bobby, it came back to when I was still trying to find that first client. And there's a few other things that, like, I started another agency, which upon retrospect, not a great idea.
Was that the car dealership?
Yeah, it was the car thing. Didn't exactly go the way it was planned. I learned a lot of it because there were 2 other partners in that business. I learned a lot about how to be in a partnership or what to look for in partners. Learned a lot. They're great people, but that business didn't work. But it really took a year away from me focusing on Ricochet. And when I started realizing that this big thing that was going to be the big cash cow and the key to me really finding that full freedom and, having all the cash in the world I could possibly want, I was like, crap, it's not going to work.
Can you tell people a little bit more about what that business was, like what the idea behind that one was?
Yeah. So that was, it was basically a marriage between essentially my marketing skills with Facebook and a piece of financial tech that would help car buyers shop by their desired car payment. Really cool piece of tech. The creator of it is an incredible person, incredibly smart dude, really awesome piece of tech. And we spun up this agency to pitch this service to auto dealerships. And this thing, if used correctly, was an incredible qualified lead generator. But it's funny. I found that in the auto business world, it's the exact same when it comes to any other business owner who struggles with sales. All these leads are crap. Like, do you see all the information? Like, we have their credit here and we didn't ding their score. How can you not sell this? And for, multitudes of reasons, this was right after COVID too. So the auto market took a dump. There was no inventory. So it wasn't necessarily that they needed leads. It was people, their salespeople turned into order takers. So it wasn't the product market fit wasn't great. The timing wasn't great. And then they're on to different things in that industry. So learned a lot, but kind of missed out. I kind of focused all my time on that. And it really I had my kind of legacy clients at Ricochet that I kept maintaining, but I wasn't focusing on building it. So once that kind of passed, that was kind of over by 2023. And that's when I really started going overdrive with Ricochet. I'm like, if this is really going to be what I intended it to be back in 2018, I've got to redouble down, get back in it and start blowing it up. And that's in just the last year that, building a lot of relational capital, connections with the right people, with influential people, has led to a lot of new business for me. And just right now, just to give you an idea, we're coming up just shy of 30K recurring
Nice.
Monthly revenues. So it's
That's
it's
amazing,
still
man.
a big growth in process, but it's been life-changing.
Yeah. When you said what you wanted it to be back in 2018, like what was your dream? Like what were you trying to do?
My dream, and it's still, and now it's my it's a dream that I know will become reality. It's just a matter of how I get there. And in business, Bobby, you hit a lot of plateaus, right? You
Oh,
kind
heck
of
yeah.
you build and build and build, you plateau, and then you're like, all right, how do I hop off this plateau to get back up the climb? And for me, the dream was always financial freedom, right?
Mm.
It's the fact that we've got a $5,000 medical bill. I drop it at a drop of the hat. I need a
Right.
new car. I'm going to go pay cash and not worry about it. My
Yeah.
wife wants to get built-in desk in the house here. We're going to do that and not care about it, right? And that was always the goal. I guess I didn't set out and say, oh, I need a 7-figure business, or I want to be I want to have an 8-figure business. That was kind of never the goal. It was the build it to the way that I always tell people, so I can have my cake and eat it too, because what's the point of having it if you're not going to eat it?
Right. Oh, for
And
sure.
if that's an $800,000 business, great. If that's a $3 million business, great. But as long as I'm doing what I want to do and my business is sellable, building it to be able to sell if I want to,
Yeah.
then that was always the goal. And that's the journey I'm still on.
Yeah. Well, dude, I mean, me too. What the interesting thing is, I've met a lot of people just being in the personal finance world that I feel like did things in a lot smarter of a way than I did. Because when I first started out, it was just me blogging, and then we started Laptop Empires, and I kind of went on this weird Then I was running Millennial Money Man and Ellie at the same time, but I wasn't really very focused on creating a sellable business. And I feel like now, 10 years into my career, I'm finally getting to that point where I'm like, okay, I need to at least structure things and think about that moving forward. Not that I want to sell. And that's always something I have to be really clear about with like employees and stuff. Cause I think sometimes in the back of their head, they're like, is he going to just like sell this? Mm-hmm. But for me, it's like, you need to have that exit strategy someday, and it may, I've tried to think a lot about what that is for me. Like, I don't know if I'm just going to keep growing it to the point where I can't be the CEO anymore because I don't have the skill set. Or I think somebody can do it better, and then I just sit on a board position, or if I sell the company, I don't know. But those are the things I'm starting to think about, which is so much different than 10 years ago when I was just like, I would like to make $5,000 a month from my blog,
Right.
And so it's weird how you do what you said about the plateaus. That is 100% true. I've done things that have worked really well. I've done things that have been total disaster ideas too, but you do just kind of, I don't know, if you just keep going, it's just like a war of attrition. You just can't stop. What do you think your business, if you just keep going on the current trajectory, what do you think it's going to turn into, or what do you hope it turns into?
It'll be a $3 to $5 million business. And here's the thing: if it ends up being a $1 million business, but it's just crushing and everybody's happy and it's sellable, I don't care if I don't hit 3. I don't care if I don't hit 5.
Right.
But I feel like if I'm sitting at a $3 to $5 million revenue rate, I'm happy. Partners happy. The contractors or employees that work with us are happy. Then there's no reason to keep building it to where we want to go, to where we want it to be. If it's one of those things, like if people keep loving us and they keep throwing money at us and we keep getting them incredible results, and there's the return on ad spend, the return on investment, then why not keep going? Because I don't have that. I feel like I don't have that ability to just stop and be satisfied. But at the same time, I've never been driven by money. It's kind of, I don't want to sound vain. I'm not driven by money. I'm driven by comfort, because I'm a naturally lazy human. But it's when you have 4 kids and a mortgage and we need a bigger house, we want to be able to build our next house. Then it becomes, all right, that's part of the comfort we seek. Let's reverse engineer it. What do we need? Well, I need to be paying myself an extra 50K or 100K a year, right? And putting it in this account so that we have the down payment. It's one of those things to where when it comes time to go build, we find a piece of land, we throw the money down. We go to the builder and say, what does this type of house need from us? This is the type of money. Perfect. We got it. So it's kind of, I guess I base it all off on what keeps myself and my family comfortable. But also to the point where I don't want to rest on my laurels where, like, I don't want to sound like I'm, living the high life or anything right now, but we're technically comfortable in the sense that I have a roof over my head. I have a loving wife and family, and it's great. Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
sure.
I want more for this life. We only get it once, and
Yes.
I want to provide more for my wife and my kids. And if we want to do these, I'm big on experience as opposed to just things. We want to go take a vacation. It's going to cost $15K. Who cares? We're going to go do it because you know what? The memories we create on that are well worth the 15 or 20K, whatever it might be, to do it. And we do it at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Question, but.
Oh, it did. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. I think it's always tough, man. It's like, as you go through business, like your goals change. And I'm sure your goals have kind of changed several times over the years. Mine definitely have. And I feel like even just, being 10 years into this and you're, what is this? 6 years going on seventh year.
Now, yeah.
It's like the things you want out of your business, I feel like change pretty drastically. Like just, and one thing I'm curious if it sounds like you're kind of similar to me in this way. I really like the struggle of owning a business. Like there's something to like, because I have friends that have sold their businesses pretty early and retired like in their early 30s and stuff like that. And now they kind of like do, I don't know, they kind of like piddle around and do little things. And I've never wanted to be in that position, which may be kind of weird. But I've always like the push and pull of like, sometimes like your business is absolutely crushing it and you're like, dude, this is so great. Like it's never going to be different than this. And then something changes and you're like, holy crap, I've got to fight again. That's my favorite thing of being a business owner. Like I need like the stress of owning a business in my life to be happy. Or do you have the same kind of thing? Or are you more like you want to chill a little bit more? Because you said you're a lazy guy, which I don't believe.
No, it's a sense of like, we're humans. The easiest path to get what you want, right? But that path takes a lot of hard work. Right? Yeah. It's never going to be that easy. And if it is that easy, that means you're not working hard enough, and it's not truly easy for you. But yeah, I can relate to that full-heartedly because the deeper I get into this, the more comfortable I got being ridiculously uncomfortable. Like I was sitting at probably about a year and some change ago. We were sitting at probably $12,000 in revenue. Mm-hmm. My business was breaking even. Like I was like, and I was at about 15. We lost some clients. You know how that goes, right? And you're like, oh, crap. Yeah. And
I'm like breaking even after you paid yourself, or breaking even like
after paying myself.
After paying yourself. Okay.
So after paying myself and covering my expenses, we had a few negative months, and I was like, ooh, this ain't gonna cut it. Like this was comfortable when I had one kid and two kids, but now I got 3 and I got 4. And then 2022 hits and the cost of everything blows up. And I start looking at our personal finances. I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is what I'm paying myself. It needs to be more than this to maintain our lifestyle and to build on what we're trying to do, which is the biggest thing for us is getting a new house. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was one of those where that uncomfortability, it would be funny. I'd finish work from that. I'd sit in bed and I'd be like, I'm pretty uncomfortable. Like this kind of sucks. But it would be that weird. I'm like, shouldn't I be like shitting my pants right now? Like I should be freaking out. And I was like, I'm not freaking out because I know I have the tools to go build this. And that's exactly what when I kind of hit me that like, maybe I'm stupid where it's like, hey, you're not making enough. Like go make more. You need more revenue.
Right.
And it kind of hit me. And then I'm like, all right. And that was the very beginning, the end of 23 and the beginning of 24. So just a year ago, I was sitting at about 13 to 15K revenue and just breaking even a couple months in the red. And that's when I was like, all right, I need to double down on my education of myself, the improvement of myself, everything from how I manage my day to who I talk to the relationships that I build. And I started building content at the beginning of this year. I finally listened to you and Mike and to Chris Orzakowski and all the guys that I got hooked up with via you and Bob and you and Mike. And I started posting on LinkedIn. I started my email list and I sold a digital product. That was in 23. That's how I started my list. But I just committed to doing these things and it started building more of my authority. And that's when I think at the end of this year, the last 8 weeks, I think I told you this before we hopped on, we added just over $10,000 in recurring monthly revenue. Yeah. And it was the fruits of the labor of building my own authority, putting myself out there more, like you guys taught me to do back in 2018, but I didn't do enough of. And then building relationships with the right people, with a lot of people and the right people. And I have to credit the podcast a lot too, because I met a lot of people through the podcast that I've now become part of their masterminds, or, met incredible people that led to either referrals or direct work with them. And, it was just kind of the real battening down the hatches of, all right, 15K revenue is not the business I set out to have. That might have been great in 2019. Like I would have done anything to make 15K in revenue in 2019.
Oh, heck yeah.
But now it's, now the goal was 36 this year. I'm going to come just short of that. But it was a huge improvement over where I was a year ago. And if I learned anything from you and Mike, it was improve yourself 1% every single day. And at the end of the year, you're 365% better.
Yeah. That sounds like a Mike. That sounds like a Mike thing more than a me thing. I'm not as structured as he is, like with the way that he thinks about things, but it's true, man. I think, it's putting content out there and doing that regularly is very difficult. And I feel like it gets more and more difficult as your business grows. Because that's something that I've done a great job of that early. And then I went through a period of I'm going to say 3-ish years, maybe even more, where I stopped putting out as much content. I didn't email my list the same way that I did. I didn't do interviews and podcasts and stuff like that. And a lot of it was because the business just changed. And my business has always been I've always done a lot of different things, and I'm starting to focus it in now. But I got to the point where I was I don't have the energy to write daily email. Like Chris Orzakowski talks about doing daily email. It's super powerful. Yeah. But I just stopped doing it for a long time. And then we got so far into affiliate marketing, and all this other stuff that wasn't the core of what I did. And very recently, basically this past year, I've just been why I just need to go back to the absolute basics. I just need to write, because I don't really love doing YouTube videos. I do them, but it's not my form of where I express myself the best, I guess. So I've just started writing a lot again. And so it's to me, it comes back down to lead gen, putting out content regularly, and just trying to keep things simple. That's where always the success always seems to be. Facebook Side Hustle, going back to 2018, all I did was write for 3 years before that, or 2 years before that. And I just did Facebook ads and got them on my list. And then I just wrote emails to them. And really it was blog posts back then. And then we did 6-figure launches just based on that, And so that's a lot of what we're going back to, is just the basics, kind of with the car thing that you went off into, is these other opportunities pop up. And you're ooh, that sounds cool. I can make a ton of money with that. But I just keep finding myself going back to the basics of it. And so I'm glad that you're doing that. And you have a good personality too. You're not a boring,
thanks.
yeah. I could see why you would do well on a podcast, but I'm glad you're doing that. Are there things, can you kind of walk me through the evolution of your business a little bit? What is your core service that you're providing? Has that changed at all since the beginning, since Facebook Side Hustle? Is it still the same?
Yeah, dude, it's gone through so many iterations. And to your point just a minute ago, where you said that things or opportunities pop up and they change, or they can distract you. You get shiny object syndrome. That happens all the time, simply within the business, not with other opportunities or people wanting to work with you or start this thing up, yada, yada. Right. So I feel like every 6 months, my business goes through an adaptation or a change of what we're doing, what we're doing, who we're doing it for, how we're doing it. And it's just crazy. It's literally like clockwork every 6 months. And I think that's natural. And I think it's a good thing. But at some point, after a while, you start settling on, this is what we do. This is the path. We can grow and adjust and adapt as we see fit. But you kind of have that overarching theme of, this is what we do. So for me, starting out at the beginning, it was Facebook ads, right? Facebook ads for small local businesses, just trying to run lead gen ad for these small businesses who don't understand that they can utilize Facebook in a more powerful way, right? That's what you guys taught me. That's what I started pitching. There was a hole for that in my market here. I joined the local chamber of commerce. That's how I had one client when I joined, and that's how I got my next 4. That's also where I got back into public speaking, because it helps when you're the authority in the room on the stage, telling people, this is how you do this stuff, and this is how it helps you grow your business. Would you like to learn more? And so Facebook ads was the focus from end of 2018 until about right around COVID. I lost about 40% of my revenue. And at that time, probably half of my revenue was through services to the thing we were doing with the automotive. So that's when about 2021, when we hopped in, or 22, I think, when we hopped in full on the automotive. But I was running Facebook ads and it was going well. I was probably medium churn at that point, meaning, I found out that it became an exposure program for these businesses where,
Right.
hey, I just got you 100 leads this month. You're telling me you didn't close any? Like none? Right. Yeah. And that's when and obviously I came back to the group and was like, hey guys, why does everyone suck at business? Like, what's going on here? I'm getting all these leads. I'm amazing. Look at me. And it turns out that, you have to have infrastructure too in your business, and you got to be able to diversify. So I eventually became the person that some clients would come to be like, why can't we close? And I'd be like, let's talk about doing this, or tell me about what's your system here? What's your infrastructure? Are you calling them right away? Nah. Okay. Well, that's problem number one. Are you doing anything with email with them? Nah. Okay. Well, that's problem number two. Doing anything with SMS? Nah. Okay. So I started learning that there's a lot more. I have to dig deeper with these people. Right. But it was also about that time where, I'd talk with a client or a prospect and they'd be like, okay, Facebook sounds good. I probably need that. What about Google ads? Do I need those? Is that a thing for me? And I'd be like, yeah, sure it is. Absolutely. And they'd be like, do you know anything about it? I'd be like, yeah, of course I do.
Sure. I do.
Yeah. So of course I didn't know squat. So I started teaching myself about Google ads a little bit. And it got to the point where I think I had a couple of prospects. I didn't land a client who I said I could do it, and I couldn't. But I had enough people ask me where I'm like, all right, I got to look into this. And at this point, I fancy myself a Facebook expert. I don't have the desire to dive into Google. Like, it just wasn't, I didn't want to go learn myself it, yeah, there's an English major for you, learn myself it. And I was like, at that time, I started realizing the power in leveraging other people's skills. So I can't remember how I met my teammate, but he's been working with me since 2021, and he's a Google Ads expert. Through the grapevine or through the Chamber of Commerce, I got in touch with him, and he has a lot of his own clients, but he also has a lot of white label clients. And I said, hey, and I think at the time I had a client who was like really itching for Google, and I was like, is there a way, like, can you do these for me? Is this a thing? He's like, yeah, I can. That's what I do. And I've done it for the last 20 years. And I was like, sweet. And he gave me a great rate, and we started working together on this client and get incredible results. The client's still with us today. And I was like, sweet. Now I've got another thing in my arsenal. I've got another thing to sell that I can help people with. Yeah. And all I do is take money off the top. I report, and I care for the client as I would any other service. So then we added Google ads, and then we started adding email. Oh, cool. I've always been hooked up with Chris Orzechowski, and I started learning, obviously that's mostly e-commerce focused, but I started applying a lot of that to the clients I have. So I started upselling my clients or talking to people who wanted email. And in just the last 2 years, it's the email newsletter side of the business that is one of the areas that really took off. And I was like, sweet. Okay, this is another one of those underutilized things that a business needs. They know they need them for the most part, but they definitely don't do them. They don't have the time to do them. They don't have the desire, the knowledge to do it. So I was like, I can do that. And I learned myself through that, right? So I, hooked up with MailChimp, and luckily email is not that hard. No. You just got to know what you're doing, and you got to be able to write good emails. So we added that. And then I started noticing, probably through a presentation I went to from a guy who knew stuff about Google business profiles. I started researching that, and I'm like, holy crap, what an untapped avenue that so many businesses, you can just go on and research any business who's not properly using their profile. Yeah. And realize that this is a massively untapped, low-hanging piece of fruit for a small business. And you can pay people to manage it. So that's another service we added. I'll get back to that in a minute, because now we're using AI with Google Business Profile, and it's absolutely crushing it. And then we got to a point where I added web development. And that was earlier this year. The guy who I've been referring to, he said, hey, why don't we just partner up and do white label gigs on these? I was like, sweet. Let's do that. So now I started selling web development, and that was a product of, I'd meet with a lot of people who we do their Google ads, especially. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, their website's terrible. Like, I'm having trouble asking them to spend $2,000 a month on ads when we're running traffic to a really bad website that could affect our conversion rate. Oh, for sure. It got to the point where I'm like, I need to be able to offer them websites. And that's when I said, now we have this in-house, we can offer web development, and our sites My web developer is incredible, full stack engineer, incredible guy, does a wonderful job. We have a temp site out there right now for a new gym client. It's turning out like 6 leads in the last 3 days since it's been live. All it says is site under construction, and it has his logo and little menu and a contact us form. And the dude's like, we haven't gotten leads in forever from our old site. Now you're getting leads on this one. Anyway, so I just started slowly adding all these services and creating this full package. And then last year I started offering just full service, like outsourced digital marketing, and honestly, like a consultant and confidant for business owners, because so much goes into, you have to know so much about each individual business to understand how to market them properly.
Right.
And I started becoming, kind of an expert in being able to converse on these things. And with my knowledge gained through my teammates, I can now converse on web development. I can converse on Google ads. We use artificial intelligence to handle Google business profiles, which we put that together in the last 4 months here. That's incredible. That's been, right. We've had so much more impact. I can offer it at a lower rate for people who only want that. But we also, with our full service clients, they get a lot of me, they get a lot of our attention, and we handle basically everything digital. So anything that's short of a personal referral, it's coming through digital. And we know that we have our hands in the mix on that, especially if we built their website in addition to all the things that we do for them. So that's an incredibly long-winded way to answer your question.
No, that's no, I mean, because I was curious, like how it's evolved, because I think, basically you're a full stack digital marketer. We're a digital marketing agency now, which is cool. And I think, that's hard to pull off. And so I'm curious, I think it's great when you can pull it off, because obviously you're very well diversified. You're helping your clients with a lot of different things. Like, how are you, I want to talk to you about email marketing. I want to talk to you about AI. I want to talk to you about Google ads. I want to talk about all those things, but how are you managing all of that? Like, what's the workflow look like?
Yeah. So the workflow, that's been, this year was figuring that out, a lot. And I think in my own personal opinion, gun to my head, I'd be like, oh, I don't know if I'm doing so hot at that, but it's been working. Like, it's doing well. So when it comes to the Google ads, I have my teammate I've been working with for 4 years now, does an incredible job. I can go out there and confidently sell the product, know that we're going to be able to find them an ROI if they're the right type of fit client, and I trust him to do it. I don't have to invest much of my time for that section, or if we have a client just doing that, or if we have clients in our full service that have that as part of the full service. The big thing for me this year was outsourcing my email newsletter production. Yeah. And ironically, I outsourced it to my sister, who is a really good email copywriter. And she also happens to be a doctor who's working off her school debt.
Oh, wow.
And she has free time in the evenings and weekends. And she's my email manager right now. Does an incredible job. She's fantastic. And I have one other email copywriter that's working with me on a couple different accounts as well. My web developer, when we have a web project come in, I bring him in, he builds them out, spits out great websites, and we're ready to roll. And then right now, the fulfillment things that I handle are anybody who needs Facebook ads and the AI system for our Google business profile, because I'm making sure that I'm a 100% expert in this before I put that on a new teammate. And then with Facebook ads, whether it's me being, this is mine, this is my baby, nobody can do it better than me, or it's just, honestly, the majority of our services don't lie in Facebook ads right now. And I think there's a lot that goes into that. I don't know about you, Bobby, but I get so frustrated with the Facebook platform.
Yeah, it is.
That I do less selling of it. But we have seen better results from Google Ads, and because there's a multitude of reasons. Like, motivated buyers are Googling. Yes. Just slightly less motivated buyers are the ones you're finding on Facebook. That doesn't mean they can't become one, but it's a different. They're on different.
It is a different
portions
thing.
Of the journey.
The intent is much higher with the Google search, and we run Facebook and Google Ads. I think they are best. Like, I think that what you just said was a really good. Like, if you're going to be good at marketing in your company. Like, I think running Facebook for just kind of cold prospecting is really good, because you're just finding leads, you're nurturing them. If you need sales now, Google is certainly better for that in most cases. It's more expensive generally, but it's still, and that's why I feel like it's always the harder sell for business owners. Cause like, I think like a mesothelioma lawyer, I think it costs like $300 per click.
Oh yeah.
For stuff
CPCs
like that.
Are through the roof.
Yeah, and yeah, some of those industries, depending on how niche it is, like it's just really expensive. But I think it's an incredible service. The Google My Business stuff you're talking about, that's great for local businesses. It's funny, I started out doing a lot of this stuff. Like that was my first client was the jeweler. I'm sure you heard the story.
Yep.
The jeweler that did my wife's ring. I did their website, I did their email, I did their Facebook ads, I did their Google My Business stuff. I didn't do their Google ads. I didn't get into Google ads until much later. But I mean, I do think that it's like there isn't one silver bullet platform. I feel like Facebook is probably, I think it's probably the easiest to learn just because you don't have to understand search intent, which really for people that are listening, that's just like what people would most likely search if they're going to buy a product or a service.
And it places a huge emphasis on the ability to write good copy, especially now with how powerful the algorithm is, where we basically don't need detailed targeting. It relies on how well you wrote the ad to learn what you're selling or what you're offering.
Yeah. So I think it's a little bit of a steeper learning curve, but it's a great skill to learn. So I love that you're doing all of that, because I think that there's so many. I think that being well diversified, especially moving forward, like everything's changing really fast. As you know, we can talk about AI and everything, but just even the last year, like Facebook ads have changed a lot. You and I have talked about. I think the algorithm has gotten a lot better at finding people. So you don't do the detailed targeting that you used to do. Doesn't really matter as much for local, but Google has changed quite a bit, especially just even if you look at the Google search results, like they're completely different, and like the AI overviews and everything that's kind of impacted things. But I do think like, we'll dig into AI. I keep saying we're going to dig into AI because I do want to talk to you about that. But I want to go to email marketing really quick. So I think personally that with the emergence of AI, that email marketing is probably going to be the most important out of all of those things, because I feel like that is the one place where you can create a real connection with somebody in a very personal place, like in their inbox. And I've always found in my business, like that ends up being, it's kind of easy to neglect it or like overlook it because email's been around forever and it's been around. Yeah. It's you just can send things to people, but I feel like that is the thing, is people don't know what's real and what's not, like with AI. I think that creating relationships with your customers and clients and everything is going to be the number one thing. And I think email is the best place for that. So like, how are you guys using email right now?
Yeah. So for us, I settled strictly on email newsletters, and we do kind of basic sequence building. So like welcome sequences or post-project type of things. But for the businesses I talk to, and just to be clear on who we work with, we're typically smaller businesses that are $1 to $10 million in revenue, and typically in the home service provider space.
Cool.
But I have a plethora of clients that are across different niches within that range. So like
plumbers, HVAC, that kind of thing.
Yeah, plumbers, HVAC, roofer, paver, lawn care, landscape, and anything that has to do with the home service. That's where we get the best results. But we have clients that are caterers. I guess this is a home service, but like animal, wild animal removal. We have a local woodworking shop. So they're local businesses who need everything we offer, and we are happy to work with them if they're a good fit with us. But our full service system works the best typically with home service providers, just because that's easier for us to scale, right? Like we become that expert. But so it's we're typically working in that range, and we have with emails. So and this came about earlier this year when I was like, if I'm talking with a prospect and they're not ready to pay $3,000 a month for the whole package, which when you talk with business owners that are in that range, right, a lot of them are overwhelmed. They have busy days. They're working 10-hour days. They have no clue about marketing. They just know they need it, or they've been screwed in the past, which is very common. They ran into somebody who sold them a sweet bill of goods and they were snake oiled, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of education, and they don't have the time, desire, or knowledge for it. They just need to know that they have someone they can trust to do it. I said, I go into some of these meetings and I'd get turned down, and I'd be like, what's going on? Like, they need all of this. Why can't they have this? What's the deal? So I said, why don't I simplify it? I can explain to them everything we do, but then say, here's a playbook based on the budget. I'll understand their budget in our meeting. And if their budget is less than the full service, let's say, look, if you're just looking to start out and you want to grow into things, start small, scale up. And if you're going to do that, there are the two first foundational important things you need to do. If you're going to do anything, Google Business Profile and email newsletters. Google Business Profile is inbound leads. If you manage this profile and it's done well, over time, your local SEO will go through the roof. People will be coming inbound to you. You might not even ever need to pay to advertise. You might get plenty of leads through your profile. And number 2 is retention. That's email. They'll be like, oh, okay. I get the profile thing. Tell me more about the email. What do you mean retention? I'm like, well, how often do you email your people? I'm like, well, twice a year or when I get time. And I'm like, so never. And they're like, yeah. And I said, do you realize, most businesses, they'll have anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 former customers. And I'll be like, in your CRM, how many people have you served in the past? And they'll say that, let's call it 1,000 people. Okay. From these 1,000 people, do you have opportunities to have them purchase more from you or to come back or to feel a part of your business? And they'll be like, I mean, I guess some of them come back, right? Like, it's how we're in business. I'm like, yeah, but what if most of them came back? They're like, well, that would be awesome. I'm like, how are they going to do that if they never hear from you regularly? And they're like, well, I have ads and I have that profile. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, I mean, you do, but they're not going to see that. That's them being proactive. You need to be proactive. And I said, you do that with an email newsletter. Like, the most basic thing to do is email people either weekly, biweekly, or monthly. I recommend at least biweekly, but some businesses are okay with monthly. And I said, look, this email list of yours is an asset. Let's say you have 1,000 people on this list today. 2 years from now, you have 5,000, 7,000, 8,000, 10,000. Let's say 6 years from now, you've got 13,000 people on the list. You want to sell your business. You're cashing out. You're moving to Florida, right? Boom, let's go. You're going to sell your business for $2 million. Okay, sweet. What if I said your list was worth another $1 million because you have 13,000 people who the new owners of this company or private equity, whoever's buying you, can go stay in contact with and sell more things to, or, tell them about the new side of your business that can be worth millions for you or for the people buying you. And they'll be like, oh, you can do that? You can put money on the list? I'm like, yeah, you can say, look, you can also, as part of my business, get my 13,000 people on this list, but it's another $900,000 on the sale price, or 150,000, 500, whatever you value it at.
Right.
So first of all, it's an asset. Second of all, now you have the opportunity to build community. That's a big thing. Everybody these days, consumers, you and I alike, you're probably the same. Like, you like feeling like you're part of a brand or part of a business, right? Let's use a local gym for an example. Actually, I'll use a brewery, because our longest term email newsletter client is a brewery here locally. And we've grown their list from 2,000 people to I think just under 10,000 right now. And I say they've been growing their list, and our emails have been helping them populate it, right? Their feedback they get from people is, with this newsletter, we feel like we're part of the community, because now it's coming from the reply to email is the owner of the brewery, and it has all the information every single Thursday about what's coming up in the brewery, the drinks of the week, the food of the week. Think about if all the other breweries who don't do this, now you have, let's say, just 1,000 people on your list. If you're not in front of me, it's very probable I don't remember to go back, or, a good majority of it, like, I'll go to the next brewery, I'll go to the other place, or, whatever, I'll forget. But if I get a weekly newsletter that's telling me about all the cool things going on, it's updating me on the business. Maybe you just opened up a new patio, or you're introducing your staff to me. Now I can be on a first name basis with these people when I come in. Now I feel like I'm part of a community. All through an email newsletter. And as you said earlier, Bobby, the email is the one place in the digital world where you get a one-on-one experience.
Yes.
Because they open that email, they are talking and listening to you and nothing else. They're not in a news feed where they get distracted by a million other things. They're not on Twitter. They're not anywhere else. They are in this email reading your stuff. And now it's registering with them. So not only on a visceral level does that mean something, it also informs them. Now they're like, hey, by the way, the brewery today or this weekend's having that famous buffalo chicken pizza that I love. We got to go in, and then I'm going to call 20 of my buddies, and we're going to get plowed and have buffalo chicken pizza. Right? Maybe when I was 26, but not 34 anymore. But you get the gist. So that's the importance of these newsletters, and that's what I preach to prospects who are asking or talking to me about it, because it's so important. And it's one of those things where it doesn't give you an immediate return, right? Like, everyone's like, "What is this going to make me money tomorrow?" And I'm like, it could. Technically, we had a deck builder, custom deck builder. We sent out their first newsletter, and it sold a $40,000 deck because it reached a guy on their list who they given a quote to 3 months prior. He wasn't replying, nothing. And we send this newsletter that talked about a recent project they did. It was actually my deck that they built on my house. Swap services. Another benefit of being a business owner. Yeah. And he said, hey, we just got this reply. Was this our newsletter? I'm like, yeah. And he said, the dude said, let's go. It was a $40,000 quote. And I was like, all from an email.
Yep.
all from an email. And I've got plenty of stories of that through our other customers that are in the service space, where it's, you just go out of your way to do what your competition isn't doing, and it will set you apart. I promise you, I guarantee it will set you apart. And especially in the home service space, so few places do it, or do it well, or do it consistently. So it's, email newsletters is the way to do it. And there's more you can do with it. We're just scratching the surface.
There's so much. Yeah. I mean, email can get so crazy. And actually, I've been trying to simplify what we've been doing with email, because we went so far into automations and like, you know, follow-up automations. And like it actually, in my opinion, becomes a rat's nest. Like, even if we had somebody doing it full time for us, and it's still just such a pain. I think the most effective thing is the newsletter, and then story-based emails. Like just like, I think if you just mix the two of those, and I don't even care about the frequency. You know, I think if you just do that, you're going to make a lot of sales. I actually had a guy, it's funny you're saying this, because I had a guy that came in and redid my fence after the last hurricane came through. And he was asking me, he was like, what do you do? And I kind of told him, and he was asking like, well, how do I grow my business? I really want to. And it was basically all the same stuff you're talking about. I was like, okay, do you have a Google My Business profile? And he was like, no, I don't know what that is. You know, and it's like, do you have SMS? Like, do you have all these things? And basically the answer was no, for all of them. And I told him, I don't know if he actually did anything, to be honest with you, but I was like, if you just improve your website a little bit, and you do the Google My Business stuff, and then like maybe write some emails. I was like, you can actually have AI like ChatGPT help you write the emails. Like, if you don't feel like you're good at writing, if you just do that, like you'll get way more leads coming in, way more jobs. You know, I think a lot of those home service based providers just rely on referrals, like just word of mouth. And there's so much money in those businesses. I talked to a roofer. I was at a conference for, do you know what EOS is? Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Oh yeah. EOS. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I went to a masterclass thing for, you know, visionaries, which I don't like that word, but basically CEOs.
It's what you are.
And I was, yeah, I guess so. I was talking to this guy that he owns a roofing company, and it's like a $10 million a year roofing company. Like, and it is just like, it was incredible. Like, and he basically did all the same stuff that we're talking about. And it's so powerful, you know, and what I've found is that the story-based emails get a lot of replies. And I'm trying to do 4 or 5, or actually 3 or 4 of those a week. Because I just like writing. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning now, and I write, and then, you know, those get good open rates and good replies, and you get people to click on stuff. The newsletters that we send out get like 60 to 70% open rates every single time. Like, they crush compared to everything else. But they don't get as many replies. So it's like an interesting balance. That's kind of why I like doing both of them.
Right.
But just doing that, you know, like just write good emails and just tell people what's going on with your business. I feel like you'll do really well.
And do it consistently. That's the thing. These small businesses, they understand, like, I probably should be doing that. Yeah, you should. But it's one of those where like, oh, I did it. You know, I did it. And I'm like, what do you mean you did it? You should be doing it always.
It should be, regular.
And it's amazing. You don't have, and I'll tell them, you don't have to spend a dime on ads. You can, based on your infrastructure, you know, maybe you're a one-man band, or you have a couple subs, and you just need 10 more jobs a month to be really jam-packed.
Yeah.
And it's like, I promise you, if you build like even one of our simple starter websites, plus get your profile under control, and you just start emailing the people you've already sold to, you might not need anything else that I can do for you, because you'll be perfectly happy at 7 figures, and you're just a happy-go-lucky craftsman doing your thing. And that's all you need. And it's like, it's mind blowing to them, but I'm like, just do it. Pay me to do it, please, because I will prove it to you.
Yeah. So just to recap on it, because I'm sure people that aren't in the marketing world are probably like, what the heck? Like, they just talked about a lot of stuff. So you run Facebook ads, you get people in at the top of your funnel, you nurture them through email, you use Google ads to get people at the bottom of the funnel that are about to buy. And then what was the other side? Google My Business. You're going to get just like free traffic
organic
from that.
Searching. Yep.
Organic search, and improve your website a little bit.
Yeah. Like, and email people. Yeah.
Yeah. Email people, and then you'll make money.
Yeah. Like, marketing's really not that hard. It's like, find your people, get in front of them, do it all the time, give them an offer. Yeah. Right.
I do want to say,
solution to their problem. It
was amazing. Listen to you. Basically did like a sales call there. Like, you kind of did like a mock sales call, and like going from like back, you said that the first thing was like, you weren't comfortable with sales. Like, you've changed so much, like in a great way. Like, you've just been through a lot. That's the thing I tell people about business all the time, is like, you just have to be in it. Like, it takes time. You're not going to get rich instantly. but if you just do it for long enough, then you know what you're talking about. Then you can jump on a call with somebody and then you're the authority on that call.
Yep.
And they're like, because they don't know what they're talking about usually.
Exactly.
So, and then you're just telling them like, these are the things you need to do. And it's kind of a take it or leave it. Like they either are interested or they're not, but that was cool to like watch you've gotten so much better.
Yeah, dude. It's when you become that, when you have that confidence, the biggest difference when sales turn into conversations.
Yes.
Is when you have the confidence to know that you are the expert in what you're telling this person, what you're educating this person on. And without a shadow of a doubt, I have the solution to your problem, or maybe I've identified your problem and I can't solve it. Have a nice day. Right. Yeah. Like you learn this, and you're right. The only way to do it is to be in business, stay in business, and do business. Yes. Like when I first started, I was like, man, how do I learn this so quickly? And you and Mike were just like, dude, you just do it. Like there's only so much we can teach you. And I was like, okay, you're probably right. Cause I'm still not selling anything. And you're like, well, are you doing anything? And I was like, I'm probably I'm not doing enough. Like you guys gave me some tough love. And I was like, you're right. Like I'm too scared right now. Yeah. And I just had to grab myself by the collar and be like, go do it. Just go do it. And honestly, dude, 7 years into this, like I feel like I'm finally quote unquote breaking through in just the last like 13, 15 months here. Yeah. Yeah. And like late bloomer, right? Like I've always felt like I should be farther ahead than where I currently am. But I think for me, I learn at my pace, and I do at my pace, and the confidence comes, and it's kind of those plateaus, or maybe there's a confidence. I don't know, maybe it's a confidence peak where it's like, oh, now I have the confidence to do this. And I just did 6 meetings this week, and I knew absolutely everything I was talking about, and everybody was eating out of my palms, right? Yeah. Boom. And then I closed 2 new customers that week. And it's like, okay, now that's true. And then when I see those Stripe notifications coming in, I'm like, there's the verification. People trust me. Yeah. Dude, experience is a hell of a drug, man. It's you learn a lot as a business owner. And what was weird for me is like, I didn't have success early. I don't think I was like paying my bills for the first 3 years. And then the Facebook side hustle thing happened. And that changed things a lot because like we did really well very fast with that. Mm-hmm. But really when I've gone back and thought about it, like I didn't know why it was working well. Now with more experience and more like clarity, I'm able to like look back, and the only thing was exactly what we've been talking about. I was just regularly emailing people, and I actually didn't sell anything for like the first 3 years, outside of like affiliate marketing and stuff for the website. But then the first time that I did have a product, people trusted me so much because they had been in my, they'd seen my emails for years. And then they're like, okay, I'll take a chance and buy this thing from this person. And it's the same thing with any business. Like you just have to build trust over time. But on that note, trust, I do think with AI emerging, I think that there's, we're just at the beginning of like, people don't know what's real. Like if you go and look at X and like scroll through videos, like I'm not sure which ones of those are real, what's not. There's a lot of things out there that you just don't know. Like, how are you seeing AI impact marketing and you talked about using it in your business, which I think it's a great tool, but what do you kind of see coming up with AI? Yeah. So I think there's still so much we don't know, right? Like, and I'll talk to a few of my guys they're experts in my world when it comes to AI. Like they're the ones who are ahead of the curve, understanding the actual capability of this that hasn't even been presented to us yet, which always blows my mind. Right. I'm in envy of those guys who can see so far around the corner and understand. They grasp things quicker. Remember, late bloomer, they're early bloomers, right? But in marketing, it's had so many different effects, both positive and negative. Like so using LinkedIn as an example, that's been my most active platform this past year. You can tell when somebody's commenting with an AI. Like, yes. First of all, here's a little insider secret that maybe is not really inside or secret, but anytime a sentence starts with "in the world of digital marketing" or cat boxing, I don't know, AI wrote it. And don't use that phrase if you're a human, because I'm going to think it's AI, because every time I have been able to spot that. And we had a writer once who we were pretty sure was using AI. I figured it out because after I started using ChatGPT a lot, I'd ask it different prompts and it would always say, and this was for blogging, it would always start things "in the world of blah, 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 in the world of blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, wow, AI really loves this phrase. And I'm like, where have I seen this before? Oh crap, it's in all these blogs. We had this writer write for us. And I was like, there it is. That like AI gets hooked on weird things, right? So that was my first tip off of like, now I can start seeing, and then there you can tell, and this harkens back to email too, and storytelling. AI can never replace the nuance that a human has. And
yes.
I think quickly people have picked up on that. People who are privy to the digital world have picked up on that, myself included, because I can tell when a comment is AI. There was someone who AI blasted one of my posts last week, and I was like, man, it's a shame this was all written in AI, or maybe you would have had something useful to say, right?
Right.
I just knew it was AI. And I think that's been part of a negative effect in marketing, is that things are getting whitewashed with AI.
Yeah.
Now, I think over time it'll get even better and better and be harder to to disguise. But with AI, it's garbage in, garbage out. So
Yes.
I can tell when you put garbage in. There's a guy I know he's relegates a lot to AI, and especially on LinkedIn. I'm like, dude, like your posts are really bad.
Right. Yeah.
They're so AI laden. Like no, and the algorithm also knows it because there's no engagement on it, right?
Yeah.
So that's the negative. But the positive, A, it's improving every single day, but B, there's specific AIs out there that can help you do really cool things. One of which for us is the Google Business Profile Management. There's so much data points that goes into a Google Business Profile. And like when we would onboard a new client, I would say I would go in and probably do 3 or 4 hours of keyword research and updating portions of a profile that most people don't even know exist, like the services section. And I'd say, okay, Mr. Business Owner, what are the things you do? Oh, we do these 7 things. Okay, sweet. I'll find those in there. I'll list them out. And I didn't even know it was important to put a description in there until I learned that. And then we started writing out all these descriptions. Now, these are things that nobody on your Google profile is going to go find for themselves. It's there. You can access it publicly. But usually when you're hitting a profile, you're like, oh, okay, I like that. I'm going to call them, or I'm going to email them, or I'm going to hit their website. You don't go to their services. You don't peruse their list of services. This section is purely for you telling Google who you are, what you are, or who you are, where you are, and what you do. And so many businesses, the majority, I'd say, don't have this area filled out. It would take us a long time to fill these out. With AI, using this very specific example of Google Business, AI goes in and not only does it find the 7 sections of services that you do, but it turns out there's 30 different ways to list those sections differently. So if you do, I don't know, if you're a gym and you do plyometrics, you say, okay, so we do plyometrics, sweet. Plyometrics cardio, or I'm using poor terms here, but like, 4 different variations of the same service.
Right.
Now, ordinarily, as a human, I'm like, I probably don't need to do that. What does Google care? Well, AI is like, no, you should care, because now we're telling Google 4 different ways to Sunday how you do plyometrics cardio and plyometrics in general. And all that serves is telling the crawlers what you do so that they can rank you higher, because when they get a relevant search on plyometrics, your profile compared to your other competition's profile is going to have all this stuff filled out. So now Google is smarter, and they're like, well, this guy's smarter. I'm going to send these searchers here. Right. So that's the type of stuff that AI is able to go do. And it takes me 30 minutes to onboard a client now, as opposed to 3 or 4, sometimes 5 hours, and writing all this stuff out. It writes it out. It gains the keyword knowledge. It scrapes your website. It finds out everything it needs to know about your business. It fills out all your services. It doubles down on all the services so that instead of 10, now you have 40 or 50. And it writes alt tags on your images. All of this stuff that leads to a much higher impact and a quicker impact for our clients. I always say it's still 4 to 6 months before you start seeing large, meaningful impact. I just made a post on LinkedIn before I got on today saying how in a month, I've already noticed a lot of our clients that are ranking in the top 3 of the map pack. And I know it's because of this. And there's a big Google algorithm core change in the last 2 weeks. And there's another one going on in the next 2 weeks. And I've sleuthed my way into figuring out that they're now weighting keywords much more heavier than they used to. They already were. Now they're doing it even more. And so anyway, without going down too much of a rabbit hole there, AI is able to give us a much bigger impact for our client. It saves me a lot of time and overhead, so I can offer it at a lower price. So as our foundational offer, I can make it a bit more achievable for a really small business, and let them come in on our, sort of like our foundational package is $850 a month, Google Business Profile Manage, and email newsletters at least biweekly. Yeah. And $850, right? And typically these clients will come in, they enjoy working with us. The client experience is another huge part of my business. Yep. They're like, hey, this is working. We're seeing results. We have people replying to our emails. They're talking about, upgrading or whatever. And we're getting, more phone calls from our profile. You had mentioned you do Google ads, right? Yeah, we do. Okay. I kind of want to talk about that. Or, I know my website's not great. And you said you do web dev, right? Yeah, we do. So it gives me the ability to sell up into and to upgrade our current clients by getting their foot in the door at an affordable rate and still have the same high level impact. So that's the big difference AI's made for me, and just the one way that we use it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, and I think, AI, this may be a hot take. I don't think when AI first came out, like when ChatGPT finally started working, everybody was like, oh, this is going to replace all humans. Like there's not going to be any attorneys or any digital marketers anymore or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Everything was like, everything was just going away. What I've noticed with AI, because I use ChatGPT every single day, because I do believe in like being a practitioner of that stuff to understand it. I think that it's gone from getting exponentially better to getting incrementally better, and that you've seen like all of the different major AI platforms have kind of converged to about the same level of accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still, I'm going to say, not good in a lot of cases. Like it's not a human. Even when like I write emails, I've tried to use ChatGPT to like proofread them, and it doesn't get nuance at all. Like even if it doesn't matter what prompt you use, like use natural language, use this, use that. I can never get it to like, it corrects stuff that I don't want corrected, because there's a lot of times like humans speak incorrectly. And it doesn't allow for that very well.
Right.
But
it doesn't have a personality. Right?
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't have a soul. There's all those kind of like ethereal things about humans. But I do think that it where you're using it, I think is the best application for AI, and where it's really going to help a lot is the people that use it are going to be able to do things faster and better for their clients. But the thing about any kind of client or service-based business, the client experience, like you talked about, that's the most important thing. Like people want to do business with humans. And I think as AI keeps progressing, I think humans are actually going to want to do more business with humans instead of just like garbage AI stuff, or even if it's not garbage, even if it's good. I think that people like working with people.
Yeah.
And I do think that the client experience part of it is probably the most important part, for retaining clients and getting new clients. So that's probably the last thing I'm going to ask you about before we wrap. But like when you talk about client experience, like what are you doing to make your client experience really good?
So for me, the client experience is, besides the results are number one, but the client experience tied with great results and communication means that client's not going to leave me. Yeah. They're not going to go, right? Like churn is a thing in every industry.
Yep.
But for me, especially, churn is bad. And I'm proud to say that my churn is extremely low. Our lifetime value of a client is 460 days and $20,000. So when I go in and sell a new client, I know that I'm selling a $20,000 package for over a year.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's skewed down because I have a lot of new clients in the last like 10 weeks here.
Sure.
So I'm very proud of that number. And a lot of it goes back to an old line from our buddy, Mike Yonda. He taught me way back in the day. And hopefully this is a semi-clean show, so I can say that Mike said, just be a good shit human. And he said, people want to, like you said, people want to do business with people. He said, be a good shit human, do what's right, be open, honest, and transparent, and people will follow you. Yeah. And he was spot on. And that is the cornerstone of my business. So, communication falls right in that realm. In the marketing space, and I think in so many of business spaces, communication is just lax. Like people are lazy, right? Like they don't go the extra mile to. How many businesses have you walked in recently where even a small business, like a mom and pop shop, you walk in and you don't get a hello, or you don't get the help you're looking for, or you just kind of get the like, hi, how you doing? Right? Mm-hmm. Horrible service. And my wife's probably listening to me in the background, like, oh my God, he's getting on a soapbox about customer experience again. But it's true, because if you do the bare minimum, people will still buy from you. They'll still shop at your store. They'll still patronize you, but they won't love you, right? They won't want to be a part of what you're doing. But if you go out of your way to say, hey, hi, how are you doing? How can I help you today? What are you looking for, right? If you're walking into a hardware store. Like, I just desperately want that every time I walk into Home Depot, because I'm an idiot when it comes to handyman stuff. Right. But there's no one there to ever help me. And so many small businesses are falling victim to this, where they just don't go the extra mile. And by going the extra mile, it's not just saying hello, it's offering help. It's being proactive and discovering what that customer needs, because people aren't going to be open. A lot of times people, whether they're nervous or introverted, or they just don't know what they need to hear from somebody, be probed by somebody to figure out exactly what it is that they need. Yep. And if you're an expert in your field, you're the one who's qualified to help them, right? But people don't get that. And especially in marketing, the majority of the clients that I have that came from a past marketing relationship, if you will say that, well, I'll ask them, what was the biggest thing that led to you not working with them? They said, I never heard from them. It was like a black box. I never knew what was going on. And I'm like, communication, right? And they're like, yeah, no one communicated with me. So a hallmark of what I do is just communicate with my people. You know, we send monthly reports, and I do it on Loom. I don't just send them a dashboard and say, here's your stats. I record a Loom and say, hey, so-and-so, Mr. or Mrs. Client, here's what happened this month. Here's what we're looking at. Here's why this stat's a little bit down, and here's what we're doing to fix it. Or here, like, we're crushing it. Look at this. We're doing great. I'd love to hear from you how much new business you turned from all these results. You staying in contact, sending text messages, you know, just like, hey, how's it going? You know, we sent that email out last Monday. We want to here are the open rates. I'm just curious if any new business came from it. Taking them out to lunch. You know, I have clients, I try to take everybody out once or twice a year for a quick lunch. Some clients I'm closer with, and they enjoy getting together and taking that hour to go out and talk about business and entrepreneurship in general. Some are more in the business, and they're like, hey, we're doing great. Love it. Thanks for all the updates. But just staying in contact with people and going the extra mile. So Loom video reports, checking in, you know, I always tell people it's like dating back in college. Like you're going steady with a girl, and then all of a sudden, like, the texts don't come in, the phone calls stop, you can't get a hold of them. 2 weeks go by, nobody said a word, and you're like, that's odd. I wonder what's going on. Well, they're dumping you. That's what's happening.
Right.
And of course, I don't speak from experience, no. But it's the same in business. If you have clients who you haven't talked to in a month, 2 months, 3 months, you have no idea what's going through their head. They might be like, why isn't this guy talking to me? I have no idea what's going on. Yep. They might be totally satisfied. You don't know, but until you contact them, you have no clue. And then just small stuff. Like every Christmas, I send everybody a Ghirardelli chocolate box. It's this big basket of chocolate, right? Thank you for being a client. I really enjoy working with you. I can't wait to help you again this new year. Sending thank you notes. I send everybody 2 or 3 thank you notes a year. When you sign on a new client, the onboard process, making sure it's snappy, it's on cue. The communication is almost every day for at least a few weeks. Even if they don't reply, you're just sending them an email update saying, hey, here's what we did today. Here's what we accomplished. Here's what we're stuck on. Here's what I need from you. Right? Yeah. This I've discovered without fail, that the communication, if you over communicate to the point where someone says, hey, you don't have to send me that many reports or talk to me that much, and be like, okay, cool, perfect. But at least you can't accuse me of not communicating everything that's happening. Right. It makes marketing less of a black box, and especially in the small business space, to folks in that industry, those industries, it's always a black box because they aren't professional marketers. They don't know what's going on. It is your job. It is my job to instruct them on it to the point that they can tell me, hey, that's great. I trust you now. Right. Yeah. Man, so
wise words, dude. You've come a long way, and I'm very excited to be a very small part of your journey. You're
a big part of it, man. You're big. Well, I would not be where I am today without having met you and Mike Yonda. So dude, I owe so much to you guys. I still have the letter you sent me under the glass on my desk here. Brien, thanks for always making the live trainings awesome.
You do, man.
The little congrats. Cheers to all you've done, and so much more to come. I still have that. So
that's cool. That's very cool. Well, thanks for coming on, dude. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me. LinkedIn is probably my number one platform. I keep hearing from all my entrepreneur buddies I need to get on X, on Twitter. There's a lot of community to be built there, so maybe I'll be there this year. But hit me up on LinkedIn, just Brien Gearin, Gearin. I spelled it a little weird. And then the marketing website, if you want to check us out, ricochettdm.com. I say it's like Uncle Rico and Uncle Chet, RICOCHET, and then D is in digital, M is in marketing.com. And check out our podcast too, Millionaire University, or millionaireuniversity.com. We got a lot of cool folks that I bring on that show, and just tell, kind of like what we did here, talk about their entrepreneurial journey, the businesses that they run. And I think there's a lot to be learned there as well. So
yeah, man. Yeah. Awesome. Well, you crushed it. So anyway, thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Bobby.
Yeah, man.